Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today on Living Mythology, I'm proud to bring you Spaced Out with the one, the only Bob Vosseller. Greetings and welcome, Bob. How are you?
Doing well. Happy New Year, Hercules.
To you and your family as well. I'm looking forward to experiencing this conversation. It's been a while since I've heard from either of you. So if you need me, just holler.
All righty. Thanks for providing this forum, and we're ready to start off 2025.
Awesome.
Speaking of which, we have a lot to look forward to in the new year as far as entertainment is concerned. Um, Coming up in just what, 2 weeks or so, or less, January 24th. We've got Star Trek Section 31 coming up on Paramount Plus with
Looking forward
Michelle.
to that.
Yeah, Michelle Yeoh. It looks quite intriguing. It is a 2-hour movie uh, focusing on the super secret covert operation of from Star Trek, and everyone, a lot of Star Trek fans have been saying, well, hey, wait a minute, this is a bad agency. So why are we, why are we having a movie all around about that? But I think looking from the trailer of it, it looks like a real kick-ass action adventure, focusing on aspects of the Star Trek universe. And almost some fans have described it as, Star Trek's version of the Suicide Squad, like having all the bad elements all put together for the purpose of doing something positive and good, on a mission.
And I think we needed that because it's been mentioned enough times in different Star Trek series, but that it's
Yeah.
Section 31's been mentioned enough that we should have some kind of acknowledgement that it's there, a little more than just whispered in the background. Since it has been whispered in the background, let's do something with it.
Yeah. Now, from what I understand, while the last time we saw Michelle Yeoh's character was in Star Trek Discovery, where she was first introduced, or although that was her Prime Universe counterpart, and she's from the Mirror Universe. Which ironically, Emily is upstairs watching the original Mirror Mirror on H&I now. That's how I knew that it was actually, the hour that of 8 o'clock. So she's from that universe, and came across, and apparently, is running a space station or a star base, somewhat like Deep Space Nine, except minus the Federation or the Starfleet trappings to it. And someone approaches her to come back into the game and get involved in some excitement and action and danger. And her character is definitely somebody up for that. So, and we get to see for the first time in, 60 years or so, or 59 years, the Charonian, otherwise known as those black and white aliens from the episode Let This Be Your Last Battlefield.
Battleground. Yeah.
Yeah.
From the original series.
Yeah, from the original series. I botched the title, but you knew it. I was
Let this be my last battleground.
And yeah, so we don't know if that person is going to be playing Commissioner Beale, or wonderfully played by Frank Gorshin, or a different Charonian who just somehow survived, was off planet while Charon had its destruction. So we don't know how involved they are in this plot either. But it stands to be a lot of intrigue and fun. And I know there's an officer who identifies herself as being part of Starfleet intelligence, who jokingly says, I'm here, or we're here to make sure you don't kill anyone. And then they cut away to Michelle Yeoh's character, who laughs like, yeah, like that's gonna happen. So, and there's at least, a character who looks like a Vulcan, but that could be a Romulan, who knows? And
Hmm.
yeah, I'm up for it. I'm up to see what they're going to do. So, like you,
Yep.
I want
Yep.
to see some kind of, it's a one-off movie, and apparently had a pretty big budget from what I heard. And Michelle Yeoh comes with no small price tag. She's an Oscar winner
Oh,
now,
yes.
so it should be very interesting to see how it all plays out, and a little bit of out of format. I mean, if you're looking for a Star Trek where they're exploring space and boldly going, probably this is not it, but it will touch on
Right.
aspects of that universe, and we'll see something that, we'll see a different angle of the Star Trek universe. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I am too. It's a little different than what we're used to, and we need that sometimes. Otherwise, we're
Mhm.
always, exploring and going where no person has gone before, and that's all well and good, but we need something to kind of mix up the the genre a
Yeah,
little bit.
exactly. And I was reminded of that only in the last two nights because Emily has the habit of watching H and I at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock when the classic Trek and the original and next gen are played. And then at 10 o'clock is Deep Space Nine, and they at at 10 o'clock we kept it rolling, and they were running the first two episodes, well, one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday, of Deep Space Nine. And it'd been a while since I had seen those two episodes, and it was interesting. It brought back memories of the time when Deep Space Nine came about, and that was a very different kind of show than what we were used to. I mean, there was classic Trek
Yes.
and there was next gen, and that's sort of, next gen proved to be more of an updated version of classic, but Deep Space Nine was a whole other animal. I mean, we got to
It
see,
was stationary rather than
yeah,
moving.
it was stationary, different kind of story structure, although it was not story arcs right away, but we got to main characters were not even in Starfleet, Kira and Quark
Right.
and Odo. And we had, young kids, unlike, Wesley, who was, a genius and part of the whole Starfleet structure. We saw Jake
Mhm.
and Nog, and it brought a whole other aspect of things. And unlike
Right.
all the other commanding officers, Cisco didn't even want to be there. In the beginning of the episode, he and Picard, because
Right.
he held a grudge against Picard from being Locutus because he lost his wife in the ship where he was first officer, due to the Borg attack at Wolf 359. And
Yep.
there was a little testiness between the two of them, and he directly said, I'm not sure I want to even be in Starfleet anymore at this point. And then in part two of the episode, they reunite, and Cisco has gone through a bit of a change of attitude because of what he experienced, on Deep Space Nine, and the wormhole development, and the Cardassians' efforts, and all this, and he tells Picard to forget the idea of finding a replacement for him, and they shake
Hmm.
hands. Now, that's not to say that I don't think that they're going to ever be best friends, from that point, but at least it showed that already there was a change of attitude, and you know,
Right. They're not going to be enemies. They're just,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it just reminded me how different, how we've seen every single Star Trek series, kind of diverging from the original and you know,
Yeah.
changing, evolving. I don't think we always want to see the same thing over and over again.
No, that would get boring. I mean, if
Mhm.
we always had the same thing over and over and over again, we wouldn't
Yeah, it
watch it
just gets
after a while.
remake. Exactly,
Stale.
remakes, all that. So you know, when we saw Section 31 through a lot of episodes of Deep Space Nine, you know, Bashir was actually originally recruited into it, and because of his genetic abilities, and he didn't want any part of it. And we saw some pretty, you know, unscrupulous individuals. So, you know, we'll see. This film is set, even though we saw Michelle Yeoh's character in Star Trek Discovery. I believe this film is set during the time period of Star Trek VI, which would be roughly, I don't know, 20 years or so. So Michelle Yeoh is looking pretty good for that.
Okay.
I don't know what her trick is. I thought she was from Earth, but I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out
Yeah.
more. But I'm glad they're going into that time period. We haven't seen, you know, what we used to call the movie era at that point, the era of monster maroons and everything. So, and I could be wrong, but that's what I heard. I heard that's what the time period is. So I also saw Doctor Who. I don't know if you had a chance to see that.
No, not yet,
The
but
the
on my
Christmas
list.
the Christmas special.
Oh, shoot. No, I missed it.
Well, I hope that you get a chance to see it, and then we could talk more about what you thought, because I was on another Zoom session with some fans, and none of us could actually understand what was happening in the episode. It was a cute episode, but we didn't really understand what was happening.
Okay.
It was called Joy to the World. There is a character called Joy. The one interesting thing, and I actually kind of missed it, but was reminded of it, is that there is a scene set during the pandemic of one of the guest star characters' mother, who was ill due to the pandemic, and you know, the immune system. I mean, she had other medical problems, and in the pandemic, you know, COVID comes along. So you know, kind of like was a reminder of what we went through only a few years ago, and how serious it was. So it was that was a nice touch, you know. But there was some.
And that seems like worlds away now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
And
yeah,
it
it was
was
only.
only 4 years ago.
And yet we're still experiencing, where, I mean, COVID is not just gone, it's mutated, and you know,
Yeah.
I had it only 2 months
Yeah.
ago myself. So I'd
Yeah.
hardly expected, when I went to urgent care, that they would say, you know, because I had taken the kit, and that said no, and they're like, no, you've got it. You know, the kit wouldn't respond to this strain and wouldn't identify it, but we did, and congratulations. But yeah. And then I heard about other cases of people, some whom we know, that also have gotten, you know, COVID. It's a different strain, you know, but some say that it's a lesser, but I don't see it being lesser. It still can be debilitating. It can still, you know, bring you fatigue and all the other symptoms.
Yeah.
And it's not fun. You know?
No, I
So
still have the cough from I had it last year, and I still have the cough from it.
yeah, and there's the long-term effects. There's the lung, you know, potential lung scarring. There is, you know, the brain fog, although I don't know these days if I can blame it on that or just getting older. So
It's just normal, situation normal.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, um, but it's, I advise those that are into Doctor Who and want to check out the new Doctor in this Christmas special to see if you're as confused as I was over the episode. I can't say I disliked it, but I can't say I liked it either. It was just a little out there, but it has a lot of energy. I think that's one of the things I like about this Doctor is that, and even the writers, even though some of the stories don't necessarily resonate with me, at least they seem like they're full of energy and trying to do something positive and showing a different aspect of the Doctor. Although they got to stop making him cry. There's drawing comparisons to Michael Burnham from Star Trek Discovery at this point.
Oh no.
Little
Oh
too much,
no.
little too much crying. I think every single episode that he's been in, pretty much, there's been scenes where he's just,
Oh no.
yeah.
There was a
I mean,
lot of crying in Discovery.
he laughs a lot too, but I mean,
Let's
there's
stop.
just, and he's likable. This is a likable character. Not to say that Jodie Whittaker, who was the prior Doctor, well, unless you count David Tennant coming in between them, regenerating, or whatever the term would be, and then splitting in half. That's the weirdest thing that we've ever seen, is a Doctor who regenerates and he splits in half as a former Doctor and a new Doctor. But the last full Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, and I didn't dislike her at all, in that she was a female, which was a controversial move felt by some, but I had no problem with that. I just had a problem with, one, she talked way too fast for me to understand. I had to get closed captions. And her showrunner didn't really provide a lot of good stories. It was sort of muddled. I think that's what hurt the show. But what have you
And
watched lately?
I've
I'm sorry.
actually
Go
been watching
ahead, I'm sorry.
streaming services. I canceled all my cable and I went to streaming services. So I've been watching a lot of the old, not the old, but Next Gen. And I actually caught a lot of Enterprise, which I actually like.
Yeah,
People keep putting Enterprise down, and I like it.
I do need to revisit Enterprise. I'm sure there's episodes I need to watch again. There may even be some episodes that I possibly could have missed at the time. I do recall that on Wednesday nights when UPN aired them way back in the early 2000s.
Yep.
The Challenger had Voyager nights, and we would, even though it was the middle of the week, somehow we found ourselves at somebody's house, usually mine, or somebody else's, and we would get together and we would all sit down and watch it, and over snacks or whatever. And afterwards, I think Angel was on, and I think we paid more attention to Angel or Buffy or whatever that was. And it's possible that we were talking over each other and talking over the episode and didn't pay as much attention as we probably should. I do remember though that the finale was a great disappointment of Enterprise. And even even the showrunner kind of apologized, and the actors didn't like it.
And the theme is absolutely atrocious, but
someone has made the end title theme and put it in the front, and actually modified put together part of that long log entry or narration that Scott Bakula did in the final episode, and made a really, really nice opening to Enterprise, with
Oh,
the
that would be good.
without the song, but with the end title music, which I thought the end title music was perfectly fine. I don't know why they felt the need to do the, it's been a long time getting here from here. And I know it was used in a movie before that,
Yeah.
that same song.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how that got picked and why they just simply didn't go with the end title music. Which
And
looking at the fan created opening was so much better than what they had.
yeah.
But then again, I think Enterprise's problem is that it didn't clearly have a clear vision. There were some good stories as the show was going on, but in the early episodes and early seasons, I mean, it only made it through 4 seasons, which is a shame it
Mhm.
didn't go 5, rounding it out, 5-year mission and all.
Yeah.
But early on, it just seemed like they didn't have quite the focus that we were all hoping they would have, and that even the crew didn't seem to quite to gel together, although the individual characters were interesting.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, they are. They are. And I
And it
think
was the first,
go ahead.
I was going to say that it's the first crew that had a dog. Poor things.
Yes, yes. And I think I can't get through talking about Star Trek things without mentioning the fires in Los Angeles. I was talking to a member of Armin Shimmerman's family who says they're fine. They're about 12 miles away from where the fires are, so they're absolutely fine. But Denise Crosby lost her house to the
Yes,
fires. So
sadly I saw that, and I saw a post by John Delancey that was also very touching. In concern, it's absolutely terrible what's happening out there. I've been watching the news reports, Billy Crystal, and some other, and non-celebrity people, just to watch them go home, and it
and there's nothing.
yeah, it
And
resonates
to top,
with me.
oh,
But
absolutely,
I
absolutely, it
mean,
would. And to
not that it
top
was
that
a
off,
situation of fire, but a natural disaster or a disaster that can just disrupt your life, take your stuff, displace you, also cause the death of people. That's the most important thing.
hmm. And the awful thing about that was that a lot of the insurance companies had dropped a lot of people because of all the fires in California. So a lot of the people didn't even have fire insurance.
Yeah,
So that's pretty
well,
awful.
James Woods had said that a month ago, that he had reported that a month ago they dropped the insurance, or the company dropped it, and look what happens.
Yeah. But, my heart goes out to everybody who's losing everything out there.
Yeah,
And you
just
can say, well, some of these people are very rich. Well, it doesn't matter. It's your home.
right,
And
and exactly, that's irrelevant.
yeah.
Whether you're a celebrity or just a regular person, for your home to be gone, your possessions to be gone, your memories that you cherish, it's hard. It's very hard. And Billy Crystal, I know he was there since the 1970s.
70s.
He and
Yeah.
his wife were there. They raised their kids, and their grandkids were there or something. And
Hmm.
they said that community will rebuild, but and that's one of the messages you always say, but it takes a while for it to rebuild, and
Yeah.
it's hard. It's a hard process to go through,
Yeah.
because your life for a while is in total limbo. Uh, you're displaced. It's
And
just not a good feeling, and then you're watching this catastrophe still unravel. There's other fires that are sparking literally from other areas that now we're watching, and they
Yep.
can't seem to. And I think I heard a report by some firefighter leader, somebody in a high position, who explained that they don't have enough people, in that large area. They just don't have enough first responders, firefighters there to accommodate for that scope of, fires
Fire.
spread. They go to one spot, and then, another area, another community is on fire, and then they have to, and of course these people get tired too, and they're facing,
Sure.
tremendous amount of smoke, even with the equipment.
And heat and everything else,
Yeah.
That's the perfect storm, drought, and then the Santa Ana winds.
Yeah.
Perfect for starting fires. But
Well,
anyway,
still remembering last year's, the one that was near, our neck of the woods,
mhm,
the Lakehurst, Manchester area,
yep.
which could have developed if it wasn't responded to as quickly as it was, and the winds were a little different. Things could have
Could have been
been,
a huge disaster.
yeah,
The same way at the one that was in Lakewood, was right by a residential area. The one in Pine Park could have been a real disaster.
yeah. There's that one too. Yeah. So,
Anyway,
yeah, on to more pleasant subjects of
yes.
I have had a collection of, well, not really much of a collection. It's 3 DVDs, and they were extraordinarily expensive, from the Dollar Tree, that I've had. So they cost, at least at that time, nothing more than $1. And they were the old Flash Gordon series of the 1950s, I think 54, something like that. And I had caught one or two, and I said, I'm just gonna go through these, just, as something to watch. And yeah, they were pretty awful. It was almost like they had some semi-decent scripts, I mean, based on the legendary Flash Gordon character of comic strips and comic books, and but didn't have the budget. They filmed this in Germany, and I believe it was American actors. There was no fantastic acting in this at all. They were very wooden, but they seemed to try. And all the villains did have, by coincidence, German accents. There was a lot of footage used. In one episode, they were at some place on Neptune where some kind of disaster occurred. And of course, they interspliced a lot of footage from what I guess was from World War II, or, some other, just like, oh, wow, they certainly look like they're from Earth, wearing clothing from the 1940s, 50s, and so it's pretty, it's pretty cheesy. But I did find it somewhat entertaining at the same time. But the first DVD, which I was very surprised would do this, first DVD had like 4 episodes, and at the very end, it had a story that kind of had a cliffhanger. It was called the brain drain or something like that, or the brain drain machine, and Dr. Zarkov, and who Dr. Zarkov, the one character that could have had a accent, did not, because Dr. Hans Zarkov was supposed to be either Dutch or Russian, and always had an accent in all the other versions. But this one did not. And he was a little bit younger than what we remember of Dr. Zarkov, and he didn't have a weight problem, which, unlike some versions, or most versions, even in the comics. So anyway, Dr. Zarkov, his brain, they were trying to transfer the memories and things to the into this machine that's controlled by the some kind of witch queen, and her costume was hysterical. It was just so funny. This is an older woman who was not exactly, built the best, but she was, they're just, the makeup and everything was just so outrageous. It was hard to take it seriously, but she was kind of controlling this machine, and it was Dr. Zarkov and also a Flash Gordon and Dale Arden's boss, because they work for this agency, the GBI, the Galactic Bureau of Investigation. So they're sent on all these missions and stuff. It bears no real relation to, there's no Ming or Mongo or anything like that. They're in space. Presumably this is after all that adventure. And they're from the future. So I think 3200s or something like that. But they're whipping around in rockets, and Flash's rocket is called the Sky Flash. And they're sent on all these little missions. And anyway, the point I was getting to is that they leave it off in a cliffhanger. And they're only half-hour episodes. They're black and white. And I was like, wow. It's a good thing I have other episodes of this, or I won't know because it leaves it with them, with presumably their brains are emptied. And so Dr. Zarkov, how does he get his mind back? It's like, like Spock,
Spock's brain, yeah.
Exactly. Without his mind or memories, his Katra, So I watch another DVD, and that has 6 episodes, and 2 of which were from the one from the other DVD. So really, you get cheated out of them. But then finally, I got to the 3rd DVD, and in the middle episode, which does not have the original episode that this was the sequel to, which is also kind of weird, which was called The Brain Drain. They just pop it, and they pop in footage from the original episode just, to set it up. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I saw this episode, but the opening already happened. So it can't be from the start of the episode. So then it just picked up where Dale and Flash discover that Zarkov and their boss really didn't lose their memories after all. So the whole false premise of the cliffhanger, where it does say to be continued, didn't even pick up. So I thought that was interesting. And so we get the strange witch queen who escaped. Presumably we think she's escaped, and she uses get this, remember this is the 1950s, a matter transfer device, very similar to
Sounds like
matter energy scrambler that we know better as the transporter. So
interesting.
Yeah, it was. It's like how sci-fi, can. Now the only thing about that was that you needed to have some kind of metal disc, some kind of special disc that you had to wear that would allow you to transfer from one place to another. It wasn't like you could just be beamed up or something. They interpreted things a little differently. So, but needless to say, Flash Gordon, survived, and it would be a great series to run with to rip through, like Mystery Science 3000 or whatever.
Theater 2000, yeah.
Theater,
yeah.
Have
Here's your
popcorn
punishment.
and insert the dialogue, and
Here's your punishment.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but it lasted, I think, 26 episodes. I don't know if that was divided up into 2 seasons or one. And I know Germany didn't like they didn't like certain episodes that in any way showed anything that would hint too much towards World War II, which of
Yeah.
course they had tyrants and they had violence, and so I don't know what you could do to avoid that. So but it was co-produced by King Features, which of course owned the character of Flash Gordon because they owned
Mhm.
the comic strips, his thing. So so that was something I wasted my time on. Emily's been watching the Lower Decks. I don't know, did you catch the finale of Lower Decks? Have you been
Oh,
watching
I
Lower Decks?
didn't catch the finale, but I've been watching it. I just needed to catch up on it.
Now, were you watching this season and just haven't got to the finale yet, or?
No, I wasn't. Well, I didn't watch this season yet.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not up to date on anything.
Yeah, Emily isn't either, but now I got her to watch the 2 episode finale. I mean, it was continued, and she enjoyed that, and then she got hooked, and then she wanted to watch it from the beginning. Because unlike me, I
Okay.
was watching it from the start, and that was a show that, unlike Discovery, I wouldn't put aside and watch later. I would have to watch it on Thursday when it dropped, or during the course of the that weekend, you know. Same with Picard.
Mhm.
Picard was must watch Trek TV.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. That I waited until that dropped on Thursdays too, I think.
Yeah, they all drop on Thursdays. Now last season I did catch the 5th season of Star Trek Discovery, and because of discovering that there on my cable system, or FiOS rather, that I had something called uh, Paramount Showtime. I discovered
Hmm.
that on Monday nights at 8 o'clock, they were running first run Discovery without commercials, which is better than what I get when I have it on Paramount Plus.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would DVR that, and we would watch that, and we could watch it without the commercials. So that was kind of interesting. I didn't even go to Paramount Plus to watch the last, and we did watch that week, and Emily did too, and we were really riveted to that last season. And funny thing is, if you haven't been watching Discovery from the very start, you can actually pick up the whole thing just on the last season, and then go back,
Okay.
because a lot of it centers around, it's a story arc, season long, and you can pick up on the core characters right away. But they also introduce at least 2 interesting side characters and the saga, and it's a quest kind of story. If it wasn't Star Trek, I swear it would have made a great fantasy story,
Okay.
because they're looking for something before someone else can get it. There's 2 characters who are basically thieves. You've got everything that would make a great Dungeons and Dragons kind of, adventure. Um, and then
Cool.
the last episode kind of explores, once they've, found and resolve, I should say is a better word, resolve the situation. Then they go into what happens to the crew of the Discovery afterwards, providing a very nice finale that would have been in an approach that would have been nice to have seen with Enterprise, given that Enterprise was a prequel series. That I think would have been a nice way to have ended Enterprise, is just, somehow cover the time period afterwards and shown us what happened to those characters. which in a way they did with the hologram episode, but it just wasn't quite the same. So, but also I'd recommend Discovery as well. Maybe that's something I'll go back and I did watch Discovery, but I do think I've missed some episodes in the 4th season. Maybe some from the 3rd. So
I'm a little distracted because USS Britannic's feathered mascot is saying night night over and over and over and over. So I hear this through my right ear. I'm hearing night night, night night, night night, night night.
Oh
No, not yet.
yeah. I put the little munchkins upstairs, so I was able to spare any barking for this forum tonight. Because they would like that. Well, now Gidget goes upstairs. She decides she wants to go to bed early, so she'll just go walk up the stairs, walk into the crate, and put herself to bed.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
Cassie's
great.
different. Although Cassie will on occasion come up, and then he'll come by my side of the bed if we're watching something in the bed, and he'll do his little woofs, and then I'll pick him up and hold him for a while, and then it'll be time to put him in the crate. So, what
Cool.
we don't do for our pets.
Honestly, it's so weird to have a pet that talks too.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's a woof or a chirp or
Or a night night.
yep. Well, also I caught Nosferatu on a whim. I wasn't really planning it, but I found myself, after Christmas, available to go to something on my own. And I found it to be very, very well done. And it was actually set in 1838 during the Christmas period. So I don't know if that makes it, there was definitely a Christmas tree, and it was definitely around that time, and a lot of snow scenes. So I don't know if that makes it a Christmas movie or not, like Die Hard.
Well, if Die Hard can be a Christmas movie, then Nosferatu can be a
Yeah,
Christmas
I
movie.
think so. It expanded the silent movie. It explains a lot of the things that you would see that you saw in the silent movie. I don't recall enough from the remake that William Dafoe, who was in this film but in a different role, he played Count Orlok, the vampire, in a remake that also spawned a sequel. So I haven't seen that one. Or am I thinking that also Max Schreck, that the episode with the movie that showed Nosferatu, being part of a silent movie, which was separate from what was done earlier. It was very well done, and it was great to see it on the big screen, because you
Yeah.
kind of immersed yourself in that atmosphere. Very, great use of shadows and things like that, just like the original. There was some, there was a small degree of gore, but it was more implied with the shadows. I think that's what made it so
Okay.
more terrifying, is that you saw the shadow and you knew that things were going to happen, and and it really did, since we know Nosferatu was basically a knockoff of Dracula, to the point where Bram Stoker's widow sued the producers, and they were supposed to have destroyed all the copies of Nosferatu, which thankfully didn't happen. But this version of Nosferatu clearly makes it so much of a more terrifying and Orlok more, I would say, actually more menacing than Dracula, in that he unleashes some things that are less, or, that are far more destructive, simply to meet his own objective. Whereas Dracula, I think, always is depicted as, just trying to have his own agenda, and survive
Right,
and get away from Transylvania.
right. And I think Dracula, if you really look at Dracula, the character is more, um, I've always felt sorry for Dracula because he's in this position of living forever and forever having to be a hunter
Yes.
forever,
Hmm.
which I always felt sorry for. This is not a great life. Um, I don't
Right.
know. Maybe I'm weird,
With
but I always felt sorry for that.
and with Dracula, you also felt that with the world changing, um, that he was no longer this regal figure. He was,
Mhm.
that he was just trying to survive and knew that he couldn't do so in Transylvania forever. And then, maybe as a change of, you know, living as many decades as he did, hundreds of years, thought going to what was considered then the New World, would be exciting and be able to put him in the spotlight. Whereas, Count Orlok, while still a count and still, I guess formally in high power, is not as suave, debonair, or anything. He is
Right.
monstrous looking, and doesn't have that same kind of,
You don't feel sorry for him in any way, shape, or form.
no, no, and clearly not in this movie either. You do not have any sympathy for him whatsoever. And his objectives are a little muddled at first, but you know what's coming there.
Yeah.
And his
Yeah.
target is clearly focused on the female lead. Um, so it's definitely diverges from the Bram Stoker uh, treatment, and made for a good horror film, made for a very good entertaining film. Um, so I believe this month or next we have a remake of The Wolfman. Uh,
Oh, I heard that was coming out. What else did I
yeah.
hear about that? There was something else that was going on. Oh, it's in competition with some other movie. Oh, never mind. It was awards. It was in connection with the fires, because
Oh.
they were supposed to put out names for some lists. Never mind. They couldn't
Yeah,
put out
the,
the
the, the
names because
Wolfman. This one, I believe, is kind of a and he's in a family. It's his wife, and he's got kids, and I think he gets bitten, and they notice changes, then they develop slowly. That's all I know about this, but and I think it's held, it's a contemporary film. um
Mhm.
we saw, what was the last one where Delgaro, it was more of a time uh piece, and set closer, was much closer to the original film, but more of a period piece. This is obviously much different, but another twist of the old werewolf story. So it could be interesting. Um,
Mhm.
I skipped Craven the Hunter, or did that even come out yet? I think it did.
I mm, I don't remember it coming out.
I'm not 100% sure. I thought I saw a poster for it when I saw Nosferatu, but that doesn't mean that it was out. It could mean that it was coming. Um, so I missed. I think I missed it. I don't know. And what was the other Spider-Man? Venom. I also didn't get around to seeing Venom, the third one. So I guess I'll get to see it at some point, maybe on streaming.
I've been watching on Netflix. I can't remember the first name of Del Toro is his last name, Cabinet of Curiosities. And it's a collection of short, scary films. And it's very good because they're very tense and it's just weird stuff going on. It's kind of like Twilight Zone.
I heard
And they're
about
just
that.
short
Heard it was
films.
very,
It's
very well
very,
done.
very good. Very well done. It's really good. And they scare even me. And you know, I mean, I go to movies with you. I don't scare real easily. And I'm sitting here
No.
with the lights on and again I'm getting creeped out. So so it's really good. They're really, really good. Yeah, and that's on Netflix though. And like I said, I'm more into the streaming now than I am on the cable TV. Um, and there's a
Yeah, it's
lot of
funny.
good streaming out there now.
It's funny how our
You
our
know,
own viewing habits have just so changed with the advent of streaming. And I think it's only been within the last 5 years that, you know,
hmm
we don't have as much appointment TV, you know, like there's not certain days that we would just watch something on a Tuesday night at 9 o'clock or something like that.
yeah,
Now we'll, you know, now I find myself, even if it is something like that, possibly DVRing and watching it later, you know, watching the streaming, um, you know, which you could watch at any point. And then you
yeah.
lose track. Then there's just so much content out there. I mean, I'm still behind on the Penguin. I'm behind on I don't think I got all the way through from the second season of House of Dragons. Um,
hmm
you know, the Game of
And
Thrones sequel.
there's just so much out there. Uh,
Yeah.
Guillermo del Toro, that's his name.
Guillermo, yeah, I believe, yeah.
I will
Um,
watch anything that he does because he's just so good. And he's always in the horror, suspense, Twilight Zone kind of stuff. It's what he specializes in. So
I'll have to
good.
check that out. There's another movie out that is kind of post-apocalyptic. Uh, and I can't think of the name of it. But it's I think it's a mom and two kids, and there's yeah, there's a number of things that are coming up that will be
I think they
interesting.
had another sequel to Quiet Place too. I think
Yeah.
the third installment of it.
Yeah, is that the one that was held primarily in the city? Because that
Yep.
I saw. That I saw.
Okay.
That was very good. That was very good.
Okay.
Very good character play. And the actress who played her. I really think that deserved an award. I think we're getting another Godzilla movie. I'm not sure. I know they're bringing Godzilla -1 back, the same film, but in black and white, or
Mm,
it's going to get another shot in the theater again.
okay.
So that could be interesting to. That was an extraordinary movie, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I know superhero wise, we've got Superman in July, the new Superman, which
I'd like to see that.
looks interesting, looks very
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And
It's gotten a lot of PR too.
this Supergirl movie um will have uh Jason Momoa, but not playing Aquaman.
Nice.
He will be playing, I think, the character he was born to play, because he looks just like him. They don't have to do a whole lot of makeup. And I don't mean that as a dig towards the actor, but he's going to play Lobo, who is
Nice.
kind of a intergalactic bounty hunter rogue from the DC universe. And, you know, I think he'll do a great job with that.
Nice. Nice.
And that storyline is based on an entire graphic novel that features Supergirl, which I haven't actually not read. So I'll have to dig up that graphic novel. I'll have to find it at some point. So, and I believe we've got at least one of the Avengers, a new version of the Avengers coming out, or, you know, another team of Avengers coming out later this year.
I think so too, coming up later in 2025.
Also heard
And again,
from,
the fire's gonna put everything back. You know, they can't do anything right
yeah,
now.
that's true. That's true. Oh gosh, I didn't even think of that. So, but we've got a lot to look forward to in 2025, and
Yeah.
Hercules is here, so I know that probably means that we need to wrap it up. So,
Very fascinating conversation. What do you call it? The Craven did come out. I missed it in the theater too. It didn't stay out very long, and from what I understand, it didn't do very well.
yeah, I had a feeling it might not. Oops, I'm sorry. I had something on pause. I didn't realize I had it on pause.
Oh, I could hear you. Yeah, I'm gonna wait till they come out on DVD and watch them, or when they're on streaming. I'll probably watch them. Last thing I started watching was Madam Web. I didn't finish watching it, so I'm in no hurry to watch them. But I will because I follow all the movies.
Well, Madam Web had an interesting premise to it, because
Yes, it
it actually was a prequel to the entire concept of Madam Web. Like, Madam Web should have been played by, you know, maybe Jamie Lee Curtis would have made it, you know, because she's kind of an elderly character. But they basically did an origin story instead. Whereas I think the actress who played Madam Web should have played Jessica Drew and should have been just used as Spider-Woman, and incorporate all those characters into a more, you know, contemporary story. But that's what I would have done, but that's not what they did. And I don't think the film did very well.
Yeah,
I found it interesting enough to go to the theater to watch, but I think I'm in the minority, you know.
Anyway, these endless conversations, we've been having them since I first met you decades ago, and each of us have these conversations separately. It's really fun digesting science fiction and horror and fantasy, and thrashing it around and extracting what we can from it.
Mhm.
Oh, before we go, I did go to the theater with my friend Pat. We watched the animated Lord of the Rings, War of Rohirrim. I'm gonna, whatever it was very, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was very well done, and I'm hoping that they'll do another one with the lead character and how they ended it up with. I don't know if you saw it or what you felt about it, but I thought, being a fantasy.
Anyway, thank you so much, Bob. You're awesome, and it's good to speak with you. My apologies again for the time confusion. My clock looks like it's an hour later, so it just
You're on Puerto Rican time.
threw me off. How can people get a hold of you and enter your wonderful science fiction universe?
Oh, well, come visit me at usschallenger.org, the Facebook page of USS Challenger. My email address, well, at least one of them is easy to remember. It's beamaboard@aol.com, all one word, beamaboard@aol.com. And of course, I'm also at region7.com as the region coordinator for Starfleet Region 7.
All
And
right.
I'd love to hear from you.
And Anne Marie, how can people get in contact with you?
Yes, I'm on the USS Britannic. We're out of where the ship is located in the middle of Long Island. We meet on the third Saturday of the month, and you can get in touch with us at ussbritannic.com. And we'd love to hear from you. We're a really fun group. I think the next thing up that's coming up is we're going to a Renaissance Fair. So there'll be a bunch of Starfleet officers at the Renaissance Fair, which should be an interesting event. So
It sounds like a lot of fun. Well, Happy New Year to you and yours, and may 2025 bring you all good things, lots of opportunity, lots of love, lots of joy, lots of abundance. And it's always great speaking with you guys. Take good care.
Take care.
thanks,
Thanks
Hercules.
again.